Hello there everyone, and welcome to day 25 again of trying to get Rue back into the item shop. Welcome back everyone to the daily upload series where all we do is talk about Fortnite and try to connect the pieces together to see if Rue can ever, or possibly ever come back into the item shop. Last episode we were talking about how much little info we have about her now. Literally now we're down to literally theorizing about her, like genuinely speaking, right? Since the beginning we've always talked about the controversies. Now we're about to talk about the actual Fortnite storyline, which technically Rue is a part of because she has been seen during one of the most recent, most controversial seasons. Not like controversial like as in like a political thing or drama thing, more of like a completely controversial season that completely breaks up the Fortnite storyline, which is the start of the 0 point during chapter 3. Obviously during this time point in chapter 3 we have been introduced with the 0 point, the main big blue ball that we're supposed to protect from the imagined order from Dr. Sloan and other bad entities. And obviously we didn't do a good job because all the way into what, chapter 4 or 5, the thing exploded and we got into chapter OG Fortnite. So yeah, we kind of returned back to our origins, and now the 0 point exploded, and now there's multiple shards and pieces throughout the entire universe and in different dimensions, in which it's almost impossible to recover every single piece. Which for those of you who haven't been catching up with the Fortnite lore, technically this would be the in the timeline this would be called the multiverse theory, in which literally Lego Fortnite, Fall Guys, Rocket Racing, everything started coming into Fortnite as soon as the 0 point exploded. Obviously we only know about this because of the recent live event from chapter 6, the finale live event, in which the narrator explains to us that the 0 point exploded and multiple shards go across reality that connect to different dimensions, which bring us the collapse that we see nowadays. Now that we got that really crucial part explained, now it's time for the hard part. All right, it's finally time to talk about the theory that I have cooking up. Obviously last episode I was talking about the chapter 2 loop theory. Literally this theory is about how Midas from a different universe who was trying to stop the storm and trying to stop the 0 point loop happening in the game, what would happen if Midas succeeded, and because of that he was able to escape that specific point in time, in that specific timeline, in that specific dimension, and get transported into another season in a different timeline that we are in right now. Obviously we all know that Midas did die during chapter 2 season 3. He got bit by a shark, he wasn't coming back. All of a sudden he has a robo armor suit, and then next thing another black hole or whatever happens, and here we have Midas. Like it does not make sense, bro. Like how does Midas always come back? Like Midas keeps coming back, spirit or not, he just comes back every single time. Remember everyone, Midas is a key part of literally the Rue storyline, because remember, if it wasn't for Midas, Rue wouldn't even be a part of the shadow. Obviously that's for another story, that's for another video. Obviously Midas, the king of all the clans, bro, he was part of the shadow and ghost. He betrayed, I think, shadow. I don't even know. I need to research, bro. I really do. I think he betrayed Brutus, which legit, if it wasn't for the Fortnite plot, Midas would have escaped. Maybe there's another point in time in a different dimension, in a different 0 point, in which a different Midas escaped and was able to come across into our dimension. Who knows? It could be possible. If this were possible, that means that every single shadow and ghost member could transport into that portal and come into our universe. Obviously to back things up, if we go into literally this season, we can turn into the bosses, we can turn into the blue alien, we can turn into Husk, whatever her name is, we can turn into, I think, Brutus. It is Summer Brutus that is the the boss. Obviously if you do see him, he either spawns with a ghost and shadow henchman or one of the other two sides. I don't know if Fortnite really, you know, made these bosses for the plot or just because they didn't have like anything else to replace them with. If we're overthinking and if we're gonna like actually like take this, you know, information as like, you know, part of the storyline, that means that, you know, like genuinely the henchmen no longer exist. You know, the groups of Shadow and, you know, literally Ghost, they have been disbanded. The only ones that are left are the hench fans that are there, you know, in costume, you know, literally just being henchmen, but, you know, kind of cosplaying as their favorite group. Like, it's pretty interesting why Brutus is one of the bosses in, you know, chapter 7, which is surprising because, you know, obviously, you know, the group has been disbanded for many years, but this can be possible through, you know, the theory in which, you know, technically Midas went through, you know, in a different timeline, in a different dimension, was able to break free from his or, you know, from his 0 point dimension and was able to cross into ours. Obviously, you know, in the finale live event of chapter 6, there was a black hole moment. So maybe, you know, Fortnite got reset. The timeline may have gotten reset due to the narrator saying that technically the 0 point has officially been split across realities. That means that, you know, in our reality, the 0 point doesn't exist and it only takes one shard in order to create a black hole. Genuinely speaking, just one shard to, you know, transport us to a different universe or a different world. Obviously, you know, this is all a theory and this is only part 1 of what is to come of the chapter 2 loop theory. Obviously, the first part was to, you know, talk about, you know, how Midas might be able to return and possibly how, you know, if he comes back to the island, then, you know, the Shadow and Ghost can come back. And obviously I gave you guys some examples on how that could happen and why that probably would happen this season or next season, due to the fact that there are hench fans on the map. Not henchmen, hench fans, both Shadow and Ghost. You know, just to remind you that both organizations are, you know, still, you know, reminded in this timeline. Supposedly the black hole happened and, you know, obviously everything resets, but somehow it didn't. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be the end of today's, you know, episode. Obviously it was a really long one. I wanted to make sure that we went more than 3 minutes long. Yeah, sorry for the yap session. I just really wanted to get this off my back. Obviously this is a part series, you know, this is only part 1 of the chapter 2 loop theory. I will continue uploading, you know, obviously in parts, and yeah, you know, every day, you know, we upload, you know, on a daily basis. If you can, please, you know, leave a like and comment down below your ideas and some theories. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for tuning in to day 25 again of trying to get Rue back into the item shop. Thanks again, everyone, and thank you for all the support. And without further ado, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.